So we've all felt it. Christianity's kind of changed right before our eyes, and we're all wondering what happened. Everybody was interested growing up, or at least it seemed that way, and then now all of a sudden nobody's interested. And that's the work that I am so focused on. That's the work that you all allow me to do. That's the work that whenever I post our messages online, I mean, we went from 1,200 impressions when I told you guys in February, 1,200 people just getting to see our podcast, our sermons, to now 3,000. And the jump is when we talk about, what is the cause of that? It's when we talk about psychology in religion. It's when we talk about the extra history that has been intentionally left out and not pursued. People are interested in that. Why? Because everybody is spiritual, but not religious. Which means that is a response to the church not being religious. Not being spiritual, being religious but not spiritual. That's a direct result of that. And one of the kind of mentors, one of the people that's guiding me through the transformation of Christianity is Carl Jung and some other psychologists and psychoanalysts who've taken religion, because you got to take religion seriously. Science sometimes says don't take it seriously, yet here it is popping up in every single culture, and even when those cultures haven't communicated with each other. It's a natural instinct for us to seek or question or wonder about a God that made us. And what Christianity does is it gives us a template, it gives us a framework for approaching that conversation, right? Because think about how many religions there are. So Christianity gives us a certain vocabulary language that's going to allow us to see the full picture of Christianity. But what's happened is people have kind of lost interest, and Carl Jung attributes that to Christianity's symbols losing its power, losing their power. Take the cross, for example. The cross is like the most sacred thing in the life of the church, the most sacred symbol, yet everybody wears it almost in a mocking fashion, because that's the gift from God that he laid his life down, and here we've adorned it and made it something else. It's like baptism too. In the early church, baptism was an initiation rite. You were really committing to the community, and now it's kind of just like this thing we go through. A lot of our traditions are like that. And what Carl Jung was saying, the symbols of the faith have lost their power. So if in order to solve that problem, you have to imbue new symbols, or take the old symbols and imbue new meaning into them, or at least reify the meaning by your own contemplation, by your own wrestling with what these symbols mean. And so Carl Jung said, look, Christianity, it's sick, right? So he said, let me lay it on the couch like a psychoanalyst and see what's wrong. And he observed that this person of Christ has, Christ lived, he taught his teachings, he died on the cross, but then he died, and human beings took over his religion and put frameworks around it, and didn't allow human beings to question the framework, which is the big, that if there's one thing about us human beings, it's our ability to question things that makes us unique. And I've never seen a slug say, I'm tired of slugging myself around. I'm gonna move to New York City. You never see that. We can think, we can question, and that's our gift. That's the tool that God gave us to experience this life. And so what Carl Jung is going to do, he's going to break down Christianity in a way that makes sense for us. One of the books I'm using to help me do this research, to kind of help bring Christianity into the modern day, I don't know if you could see it, but it's called The Christian Archetype, a Jungian commentary on the life of Christ by Ed Edinger. And it's not if you don't understand psychology, you probably wouldn't understand the words of the book, but like my wife tells me, Sean, you would be a great service of the world if you could just read the books that are tough to understand and explain them to us, intrigue us, so that we might pursue it ourselves. So that's what I do. You do what your wife tells you to do. And so in this book, what he does is he takes the life of Christ. He calls it the incarnation cycle. I hope you can see that. But I'll explain it because this is going to be the first in a series of Friday email posts that talks about this book that I really think can help breathe new life into your personal faith and give really good meaning to those symbols that we celebrate over the course of the Christian calendar. You know, like Annunciation, when the angel came to Mary to tell her about the birth of Christ, the Nativity, the flight into Egypt, baptism, triumphal entry, the Last Supper, Gethsemane, the arrest and trial, the flagellation and mocking, lamentation and entombment, resurrection and ascension, and Pentecost. What Carl Jung said is, look, if you look at the story of Christ, you'll see a pattern exist. And if you look at his life specifically, you'll see the life pattern of the human being, you know, from birth to kind of socialization to work life, to questioning work life, to questioning everything, to facing, like, you know, the dragon or the obstacle in your way. That human beings, like when you watch a movie, like every hero goes through this kind of pattern where they're, you know, born into a certain circumstance and they have to overcome it. And when they overcome it, they're able to go back and lead others out of kind of mundane life. And that's what this book is emphasizing. It's saying, look at the life of Christ as a pattern in which you can adopt for your own life once you see and understand it played out in the Gospels. And, you know, that's a new way of looking at it, because, you know, we've been taught to worship Christ, and Christ taught us to follow him. And so if we did this, it might be something new for the church. It's new in the modern day for, you know, because let's be honest, none of us are really following Christ like the way, you know, we know this, we know, and it's okay. But once we accept that, maybe we can start a new adventure and say, look, I've never really done this. I've never, you know, I went to church, but I never gave my life over to a spiritual thing. You know, again, I may be religious, but not spiritual. But the world has shifted to becoming spiritual, but not religious. And if we're the church, if we're God's messengers in the modern day, and we kind of hold fast to our line, you know, I'm gonna guess that Jesus was spiritual but not religious because the religious people didn't like him. And maybe that's the phase we're in. Maybe that's the stage. You know, nothing new under this. There's nothing new under the sun. Maybe that's what we have to do. Some personal exploration. And I'm going to guide us through this book. I just wanted to give you an introduction to it. And next week I'll talk about the Annunciation. But you know, let's use this time wisely. Content is king these days. So I hope that this feeds your soul this Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and that you are blessed to know that Christ is alive and working in you the moment we decide to take a step towards him. God bless, and I will see you in church.